In here, get on in here. It is time for our Long Song Saturday, everyone. Welcome back. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Where did it go? Oh, I forgot to, hold on. I forgot to bring you back. There you go. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I appreciate you so much being here. Hope you're having a lovely one out there. A beautiful morning if you're watching this when the video is coming out or whatever. But it's a Long Song Saturday. And for today, we're going to go ahead and listen to Nick Drake with Bryter Layter. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It looks like that's how it's said. Or Bryter Layter, I'm going with. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and listen to this album here. Full album today. Second studio album by Nick Drake. Released in 1971. We've listened to Pink Moon. We've listened to Five Leaves Left. Five Leaves Left is my, as of right now, only listening to those two albums, my favorite album from Nick. And I do continually listen to that one even to this day. So let's go ahead and pop into this one and see what's going on here. This particular album had been suggested and recommended to me by the following: Sheldon Howells, Blastastic, R.S. Mose, I Just Need Myself, Michael Keane, AK, looks like you prefer this album to the others, Derek Kane Meyer, MK Lives, hold on, Ha Fanny Ha, Mark Spooner, Not Forker, Johnny W.R., Mega Freddy, Jim Bricker, and Scott Thornton. So all of you, thank you so much for the recommendation and for the suggestion. Thank you for bringing the olives in this particular day. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. You know, you don't have to spend such a long time sitting here with me listening to a whole album, but you've chosen to. So I appreciate that. If you like, press the like button, get it out the way. Subscribe if it's your first time here. I hope that you enjoyed the video as we move forward. That's it. Sign up on Patreon, press the button, might as well, right? If you're interested in supporting the channel for as little as $2 a month, you don't have to. You could just stick here and watch it here. And if by chance this video is edited and the full version's available on Patreon, you don't need to actually sign up and pay. You just have to make an account, which is free. And then you can watch it for full there. So I don't block the video from being watched by anyone. So that's it. That's the intro. I'm excited to jump into it. As far as I remember, looking at the track list here, I don't think that there's any tracks on this album that I have listened to. Like, none of them look familiar, and I don't think we've covered any of these songs here elsewhere on the channel, like in an individual manner. So I believe that this will all be new material. My wife and I worked on the yard this morning, so I'm rewarding myself with a little bit of coffee. That's yummy. So sip on whatever you're sipping on. Hope you got your snacks ready for you. Whether it's pretzels on the left hand, some chips on the right, maybe just a cup of tea, whatever it may be. Let's go ahead and, hey, get into it. This is to you. We'll start off with the first two tracks, which are Introduction and Hazy Jane. Let's let it go. That's like the sound of flowers growing. I love how beautifully orchestrated it all was. The little bit of drum in the back to kind of give it a rhythm. Sweeping strings. Gorgeous, elegant arrangement. Hazy Jane II. Completely different upbeat sound that I'm used to hearing. Oh, nice ramble.
What will happen in the evening in the forest with a weasel with a teeth that bites so...
He softened that last line. It was really nice. Very subtle. What, for myself coming into this, what a completely different tone I'm hearing here with Nick Drake. First of all, the introduction, like I kind of mentioned really quickly in between the tracks, very beautifully sweeping, well composed and orchestrated, of course. I love how it just completely envelops you. And it really, like, to me, it sounded like a garden growing or like a flower blooming. It was just this beautiful piece of art. And when it led into Hazy Jane, which, by the way, this is Hazy Jane II, which 1 is at the end of actually this side of the album. It is an upbeat Nick Drake song. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have never heard an upbeat Nick Drake song like this. And man, does he sound good. Now, here's something I need to look at really quick. I just want to make sure. I'm just really quickly looking at his discography. So his first album was Five Leaves Left. We love that one. Bryter Layter, where we're starting now, and then Pink Moon. So it's just these 3 albums. I'm curious as to what led him, at least to me in this track, just going for it. Like, just going for something, I guess, completely different. I just never heard him in this particular tempo. But he sounds great. It's kind of giving me a similar trajectory, not exact, of course. You know, I'm not comparing apples to apples. This is apples to grapes. But we're getting a little bit of like a talk kind of scenario where, of course, Nick Drake's final album is completely isolated. It is just him. Gone are these, big arrangements, and it's really just man and guitar for the most part. But if you go earlier, you have songs like this, or even something like Five Leaves Left, which I think is just this interesting kind of, once again, trajectory, career-wise and music-wise. The horns were a great addition here, emphasizing certain bars and certain hits and notes. The guitar playing from Drake, I think, was fantastically folky, especially on the part that comes after the chorus. Like, he just kind of lets loose a little bit there and kind of grooves out, which just feels very, very good. I think that this was a very interesting track to open us up on, and a very welcome way in. Looking at this particular track, I see that for the string arrangements that was done on the first track, and then for the brass arrangement here, that's going to be courtesy, I should say, of Robert Kirby, who he's known for working not only with Drake, but also with Vashti Bunyan, Elton John, Straubs, Paul Weller, and Elvis Costello. So he's worked with many, many people that we're familiar with reasonably here, and a lot of other people here as I'm looking around that I may not know, but I'm sure that you guys would know if I listed off their names, but I'm not going to sit here listing off names. Let's go ahead and look at the lyrics, though. We can do that. What will happen in the morning? Oh, by the way, I mean, I mentioned it during the listen, but the way that Drake rambles off these lyrics, just a run-on sentence just through the poetry section of the bookstore, is just wonderful. What will happen in the morning when the world it gets so crowded that you can't look out the window in the morning? And what will happen in the evening in the forest with the weasel, with the teeth that bite so sharp when you're not looking in the evening? And all the friends that you once knew are left behind. They kept you safe and so secure amongst the books and all the records of your lifetime. What will happen in the morning? Well, he repeats that there. So he's just lost in thoughts and waxing poetic here. What will happen when the world gets so crowded and you can't perhaps take solace in the isolation that you could once take solace in? Maybe you look out your window and there used to be fields, maybe a couple houses here and there, but perhaps now, due to more people and population growth, now you're in a city. What happens? What happens with this? What happens with that? I think he's just kind of throwing those out there and just kind of getting lost in his thoughts with this. Take a little while to grow your brother's hair. Take a little while to make your sister fair. And now that the family is part of the chain, take off your eye shade, start over again. So a little bit of a cycle of life happening here. Take a little while to find your way in here. Take a little while to make your story clear. Now that you're lifting your feet from the ground, weigh up your anchor and never look around. So I feel like he's kind of talking about life in general here. As you grow up, the things that are restraining you, I think, are slowly being loosened. The chains of adolescence and childhood are being loosened, and you have more freedoms generally as you come into adulthood. So take a little time for yourself. Don't rush through it. Don't rush through life. Have some patience. Enjoy life a little bit, and things will come to you. Let's sing a song for Hazy Jane. She's back again in my mind. If songs were lines in a conversation, the situation would be fine. If songs were lines in a conversation, the situation would be fine. I feel like if everybody sung out with their heart, maybe not literally, but if everyone spoke their mind, if everyone put themselves out there, and I mean this in a positive light, if everyone was honest with themselves, I guess maybe a better way, then everyone would be better for it. I feel like maybe that's kind of where we're going with it. Probably not exactly, but something like that. And I really like this line of weigh up your anchor and never look around. Like, once again, unrestrain yourself. Give yourself that path of freedom. And don't worry about what's here and what's there. Take some time to yourself. Relax. Self-meditate. I almost said self-medicate. That's good in certain aspects, but like self-meditate. Worry about yourself for a little bit. And then, go from there. So really great two first tracks to open us up here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here, which is going to be At the Chime of a City Clock. Well, all right, bets. Will there be a clock chiming in the beginning? I'm going to guess yes. I think you have to have some sort of sound effect from a clock, but let's see what we got here.
For the sound of a busy place is fine for a pretty face.
I like how with clock, it brought things back down a little bit, at least initially. Like it really felt like stepping into this urban, noir, cityscape, nocturnal atmosphere of the guitar kind of isolated in the night and just walking through the city streets. And obviously, city was mentioned several times here in the track. And here's what I kind of pictured as I was listening to this. It felt like Nick Drake was just a folk artist, of course, a man in a guitar. And he's walking into this new city, the skyscrapers and the buildings kind of rising above him. And as he walks deeper and deeper into the heart of the city, he kind of begins to feel the city, to hear the sounds, to get used to it. This is a new experience and a new place for him. And so little by little, the chime of the clock here represented very clearly by the orchestra strings coming in so wonderfully. And then later on, he mentions in the lyrics, let me pull it up here, the beat of the city drum. Even though before this, the saxophone did come in, but it was very enunciated right there. The saxophone begins to sing and sweep. And so I feel like this is almost, like I said, this is just where my mind goes. This is almost like I guess to put it in the most simple terms, a folk artist, a country boy coming to the city, being kind of scared, being kind of nervous, being kind of anxious about it, but then slowly but surely kind of feeling it, understanding its vibe, understanding the heartbeat of the city, and eventually beginning this romantic viewpoint and romantic journey in the city. That's how I felt when I was listening to this, because Nick Drake is, of course, that focal point. Like, I'm listening to his singing, I'm listening to his guitar playing, and sometimes his guitar playing comes up, but sometimes it kind of comes down, and it plays a little bit more subtle in the background, especially amongst the arrangement. And I feel like that's so wonderfully, purposely done, because it does feel like that experience of, this is new. I'm surrounded by these things, but we're not letting them overtake us, because at no point does the drums, the bass, the orchestra, or the sax take over the music, but it is surrounding his particular character in here. By the way, drumming. Love the drumming in here. It's going to be performed by Mike Kowalski, who is, his name looks familiar. Okay, there you go. Touring and session drummer for the Beach Boys. There you go. The subtlety that he brings in the drumming specifically, I think is very, very profound. There's a strong jazz element to it, I would say. And the way that he uses volume to enunciate certain moments, to bring subtlety and quiet to certain moments. For example, after the chorus, when it kind of comes down, along with the orchestra, it comes down, and it just comes back to the brushes, basically. Well, here, he's just using sticks, really. I don't think it's brushes. But like the same technique as he would be doing with brushes, just bringing it down to that subtlety. And then building it back up. There's some playful changes in the rhythm as well. The bass, which I really enjoyed here, that's going to be performed by Dave Pegg. Dave Pegg, his name looks familiar too. Now, why does it look familiar? Because he's worked with, of course, Fairport Convention and Jethro Tull. I don't know why his name didn't look familiar. All right, duh. Just like such great subtlety on the bass in the beginning, throughout, of course, but in the beginning, I feel like there was a strong nocturnal ambience that began to have light and radiance shown to it as it went forward. I feel like I'm talking too much. Let's go ahead and look at these lyrics here. At a city freeze, get on your knees, pray for warmth and green paper. A city drought, you're down and out, see your trousers don't taper. Saddle up and kick your feet, ride the range of a London street. Travel to a local plane, turn around and come back again. At the chime of a city clock, so there wasn't a literal chime effect, but that's when the orchestra begin to rise. So that to me, like I said, kind of symbolizes the chime of the clock, the city coming alive. Put up your roadblock, hang on to your crown, for a stone in a tin can is wealth to a city man who leaves his armor down. Stone in a tin can is wealth to the city man. Isn't that like when like homeless and beggars on the streets would like shake their tin can and there would be a stone in there? And he says that's wealth to a city man who leaves his armor down. Well, you got to keep your armor up if you don't want to necessarily end up in that position. I think that might be what he's saying, in a sense. Stay indoors beneath the floors, talk with neighbors only. The games you play make people say you're either weird or lonely. Great rhyme scheme, by the way. A city's star won't shine too far on account of the way you are, and the beads around your face make you sure to fit back in place. Like you have to stay, as he says, basically stay in your place. Don't venture out of these particular limits. Otherwise, you might find yourself in trouble, or as he says, a sweaty situation. And at the beat of a city drum, see how your friends come in twos or threes or more, for the sound of a busy place is fine for a pretty face. Who knows what a face is for? And that's what I mentioned. Of course, he's mentioning a face a person's face, but also we're talking about the chime of a city clock, so the face of a clock. The city clown will soon fall down without a face to hide in, and he will lose if he won't choose the one he may confide in. Sonny boy with smokes for sale went to the ground with a face so pale, and never heard about the change, showed his hand, and fell out of range. Like the city's a fast-moving place. You got to keep with it. You have to keep with the chime of a city clock. At the chime of a city clock, things can change, so you better be on your toes. In the light of a city square, find out the face that's fair. Keep it by your side. When the light of the city falls, you fly to the city walls. Take off with your bride. But at the chime of the city clock, put up your roadblock. Hang on to your crown, for a stone in a tin can is the wealth to a city man who leaves his armor down. I feel like this is like I said, a romanticization of a city, but also a realization and a wariness of, be careful. As he says, at the chime of a city clock, be ready to put up your roadblock, hang on to your crown. You're going to have a purge situation. It's not that far, but you know what I'm saying. Let's move on to the next track here, which is One of These Things First. Here we go. This coffee was free, by the way. I like this room given for them to go off a little bit. I thought the most beautiful thing about this particular track was just the dance between Nick Drake's guitar and then the piano playing here on this particular track, performed by Paul Harris. Paul Harris, who's worked with many musicians who we've listened to here on the channel and such: Bob Seger, B.B. King, ABBA, John Mellencamp, Judy Collins, and many others. I mean, it's just very beautiful listening to them play along with each other. And I like how after the second chorus, how they get just a little split off, a little break to kind of play even more. And there's not like a clear solo in there. It's not like Harris goes off and like does his thing, or Drake goes off and does his thing. Like, they continue this dance. They just kind of, I don't know, add a few more steps to it, I guess, if you will. But they're still dancing. It's not like, they're it's just my mental. They're not dancing and then one breaks off, does a little solo, come back, do a little dance, one breaks off, does a little solo. No, they both just add a few more steps, but they're always together. And I just found that really melodically satisfying to listen to. Of course, with Drake singing it, and the, once again, very subtle drum beat just behind everything, just very barely palpable in there. And I like the lyrics a lot, basically questioning like, I could have been this, I could have done that. And he never quite answers, well, we'll look at the lyrics, but like what he is. Let's actually kind of do that real quick. Let me pull that up, because I feel like this song can kind of go into a few different ways. I could have been a sailor, could have been a cook. A real live lover could have been a book. I could have been a signpost, could have been a clock. As simple as a kettle, settle, or steady as a rock. There are so many ways I feel like you could look into this track, into the lyrics here. I don't know his spiritual beliefs. He could be referencing reincarnation. Like he was this perhaps at first, because he says in the chorus, I could be here and now. I would be, I should be, but how? I could have been one of these things first. Like I could have been one of these things first, and then here in this particular lifetime, I am me. Or he could just be taking certain aspects of stuff, like for example, when he says I could have been a signpost, I could have been a clock, maybe not literally, but a signpost is something that is steadfast, it stays at a certain point, and it tells people where to go. So perhaps he's describing the quality of that, and he could have that quality of a signpost, but that's not what he is or what he has. And as he says, simple as a kettle, steady as a rock, which when he says I could have been this implies that he's not that. So like these are the kind of different ways I'm kind of looking at this. Or it could also just be a very simple look at life. Like, I could have been a sailor. Growing up, I could have made a different career choice and been a sailor. I could have been a cook, etc., etc. So I feel like there's a lot of different directions this could go in, and I like all of them. I could have been your pillar, could have been your door. I could have stayed beside you, could have stayed for more. I could have been your statue, could have been your friend. A whole long lifetime could have been the end. So now he kind of breaks it down and pulls it down into more of a relationship status. I could have been your pillar, the thing that you need to hold on to. I could have been that pillar of strength for you. I could have been the door, perhaps showing them the exit from some sort of place. I could have stayed beside you. I could have stayed for more. I could have been your statue, your friend, a whole long lifetime. But apparently, it was not meant to be. I could be yours so true. I would be. I should be through and through. I could have been one of these things first. I could have been a whistle. Could have been a flute. A real life giver. Could have been a boot. I could have been a signpost. Could have been a clock. As simple as a kettle. Steady as a rock. And perhaps the whistle and flute part could be a reference to, if we're going with a literal meaning, like these are the instruments I could have gone for, or I could have gone to different genres of music or such, or different creative output. But also, I guess you could in a way view a flute as an evolved form of a whistle. So he could have been something as simple as a whistle, or something as perhaps more elegant and I don't know, level up as a flute. Once again, many ways to interpret this. A real life giver, something that of course gives to others, or he could have been a boot, something that takes, I guess, the weight of others, right? That's good. That's good. Let's go. That was all I had to say. I actually didn't know how to transition to the next track. Okay, so let's just do the next track. Which we're circling back now to Hazy Jane, but this time we're going to listen to part 1. Why did he switch part 1 with part 2 when, of course, you would think it would be sequential? Who knows? Let's go ahead and listen to it. We'll talk about it after.
In the night, would it mean much to you? A hazy
Obviously, a great way to end the first side of the album, and the obvious connection to Hazy Jane II. So we have kind of course, out of order situation, like one of those movies like Irreversible, or like, what is it, Tenet or whatever. I've never seen any of them, but it's out of order, right? We got part 2 first before we got part 1. I guess kind of like Star Wars, right? The originals before the prequels are even thought of or dreamt of. And on my end, I have the lyrics for both up because I wanted to kind of compare and see like the story and follow through with it. So musically, I really like how at the end of every single bar and measure there, you have kind of what I call this downturn. So the drum, of course, is the most obvious part of that, the boom, that little fill that comes through at the end. And then amongst that, the guitar from Drake also comes down, does a little bit of a fill there, the bass as well. So I like how it's this constant kind of like rises up, rises up, rises up, and then that goes with the lyrics. The lyrics, I think, he's basically talking to Jane, or at least in some, whatever Jane may represent, a real person or not. And he's like, I think he's basically getting to the point of like, slow down. Life is moving fast. Don't grow up too fast. Like, we're moving. Time is moving forward, but let's slow down a little bit. Don't worry so much. Take a breath. Calm down. Clear your head. Hazy Jane, clear your head. And we're going to get through this. And then part 2, because I had the lyrics once again pulled up just to keep it in mind, like I think that he's still reiterating that same point of calm down, cool down, clear yourself, we're going to be just fine. I think that these are songs of reassurance to this particular person, Jane, once again, whether she's real or not. That's what I feel like it is. And so I feel like there is a slight sense of urgency in this song with that drum fill and the music fill at the end of every measure. But as we heard in, of course, Hazy Jane Part 2, it changes into something completely different by that point. Now, I really like, once again, how the orchestral situation comes up in here. I like how it grows. It provides a little bit of what I say would be hope in this kind of slightly urgent situation, which I thought was just, once again, really, really nice. And then here, in this track, hold on, there was something I was going to mention. The drums here are going to be performed by Dave Maddox, who performs, of course, with Fairport Convention. So let's go ahead and pull up the lyrics for you. Do you curse where you come from? Do you swear in the night? Would it mean much to you if I treat you right? Do you like what you're doing? Would you do it some more? Or will you stop once and wonder what you're doing it for? Begging for some self-reflection is what I kind of get from this. Hey, slow, Jane, makes sense. Slow, slow, Jane, cross the fence. Like, yeah, we're going to cross this fence, whatever that may represent. We are going to make this move, but we don't have to rush towards it. Let's take our time, slow down a little bit. Do you feel like a remnant of something that's past? Do you find things are moving just a little too fast? Do you hope to find new ways of quenching your thirst? Do you hope to find new ways of doing better than your worst? Like, self-reflect and then make room for improvement. Self-reflect and self-improvement. Do it for you. Sure that you would do the same for me one day. So try to be true, even if it's only in your hazy way. Like, even if it's not 100% clear, even if it's still just a little bit foggy, put your head to it, put your mind to it, and be true to yourself. And I hope that the advice, the inspiration, the motivation that I'm giving you today, you'll return to me in kind at some point in the future. Can you tell if you're moving with no mirror to see, if you're just writing a new man who looks a little like me? Is it all so confusing? Is it hard to believe? When the winter is coming, can you sign up and leave? Slow Jane, clear your eye. So even if you're not with me, even if you're with someone else, keep at least my words in mind. Keep me in mind and what I've told you in slowing down a little bit. I think that's what I kind of feel from this one. Anyways, that's the end of side 1, so we're going to go ahead and move on to side 2. I hope that you guys have been enjoying, of course, the video to this point. Hope that you've, been entertained in some capacity. With music like this, like, first of all, I chose to listen to this album today because, once again, my wife and I worked in the yard all morning, cleared it up and, did yard work. I'm tired, and I wanted something, like, from what I know of Nick Drake, like, I wanted something, like, kind of relaxing, kind of, like, maybe introspective, just kind of calm, right? I didn't feel like listening to like Slayer today. Like, I just wanted something kind of calm and chill, and that's perfectly hitting this mark of that. And I know that with this kind of music, like, it's not like it's exciting music in the sense of you're not going to get like, well, probably you're not going to get reactions like or whatever. So I'm sure I'm not the most entertaining to watch in listening to this, but in some capacity, I hope that you're enjoying it, That's all I got to say. Let's go ahead and move on to the next side of the album. And we're going to start off with the title track, actually, Bryter Layter, which I, once again, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We'll go ahead and take another sip away from the mic. That's good. That's good. And we'll talk about it after. So let's take Fly first. Fly, I really love the, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of off, but like classical instrumentation with the harpsichord. With here, it's going to be the viola. I thought it was cello, then I thought it was violin. I'm completely wrong. John Cale featuring the harpsichord and the viola here, and it just has this really beautifully. Is it appropriate for me to say beautifully Baroque? Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's relish in the romantic. I don't know what era these instruments are typically from the classical music, but either way, like, it just adds this beautiful, eloquent air to the music, and I love that. I like how close Drake sings to the mic on this one. He sings from, to me, like a very loving, kind of romantic point of view here. When he's requesting certain things like, please tell me your second name, please play me your second game. I've fallen so far for the people you are, I just need your star for a day. I feel like this is just him being absolutely smitten with either this person, this object, this person, place, or thing, this noun. He is just absolutely smitten with it, and he's just falling for it. And I like this romantic air that's being spoken about here. I think that that's absolutely lovely. Talking about the title track, Bryter Layter, the instrumental. Let's get controversial. I think, so far out of the songs we've listened to on this album, I think Bryter Layter is actually, it's pleasant, but I actually think it's kind of pedestrian. I actually didn't really care for it that much. And I couldn't get this out of my head when I was listening to it. Bryter Layter just sounds like the ending credits to some old 70s TV show. I'm sorry. Maybe this is your favorite song by Drake or such, but I thought it was interesting, but I actually felt that for the first time that the string arrangement should have been left off. And perhaps we could have been given something a little bit more intimate. I do like, in a sense, how it's a re-entry into the album, focusing on side B. And it kind of gives us an introduction just like side A. But I didn't really care for it too much. It just sounded kind of, I don't want to say cheesy, but I just couldn't get like old 70s sitcom ending credits. when I was listening to it, I thought the flute playing was decent, sounded nice, but I think it was because of the string section. I think if that had been left off, maybe I'd feel slightly different, and especially in contrast to Fly, I don't know. It just didn't hit as well. But since I kind of already looked at the lyrics here, please give me a second grace. Please give me a second face. I also see that as, once again, kind of being a reference to the previous track. I've fallen down for the first time around. Now I just sit on the ground in your way. Now if it's time for recompense for what's done, come, sit down on the fence in the sun. And the clouds will roll by and will never deny it's really too hard for the fly. Once again, I mean, maybe this is just me, but he says fence. Previous song with Hazy Jane, he was talking about like crossing the fence. I think that there's some references in some places to previous tracks here. So come, ride in my streetcar by the bay, for now I must know how fine you are in your way. And the sea, she will sigh, but she won't need to cry, for it's really too hard for the fly. Now he says it as in a noun, like it's too hard for the fly, like a bug. But I actually think it's more of the fly, the journey. Like he's just speaking, and I just bit my tongue. Oh, he's saying it in a certain way, like it's too hard for the fly, like, but he's meaning like it's too hard for the flight. But he's just used. I think that hurt. I'm talking too much. Let's listen to the next track. Poor Boy. It gives us 6 minutes to recover from me biting my own tongue. Ow, that hurt. Let's listen to it. Let's go. Almost sounded like Take 5 for a second. I forgot to bring up the bass.
Nobody knows how cold it grows.
Poor Boy. Poor Boy. 2 words to say on this track. Chris McGregor. 2 words. Who is playing the piano here. Absolutely sensational. To me, makes this track so clean to listen to. Obviously, I think a lot of you guys know me by now. I love jazz. So, like, when we start getting to some strictly jazz piano, I am in it. Looking at Chris McGregor and looking at some of his, like, who he's worked with and such, he's a South African jazz pianist, band leader, and composer. I don't think I've ever heard of him. He's played with the Blue Notes, Harry Miller, Brotherhood of Breath. I'm not really familiar with any of them, to be honest, but like absolutely wonderful playing. I mean, it just feels so good. It's wonderful stuff that he's putting down. I love that he gets a solo and a true solo here, and I mean, it's to me just really, really nice to listen to. I like the harmonies. You have Pat Arnold and Doris Troy here, and I like how they first come in subtly, and then they come in and give you the chorus. They basically have the chorus, and Drake kind of steps back a little bit for that. The saxophone returns, just crying out in the darkness here. This to me is neck and neck with being the best track here on the album. I think that it has everything that I'd want from it. That nice palpable groove on the backbeat of the drums, which by the end grows just a little stronger. Still subtle, still beneath the brush, but you can feel its impact just a little bit more back there. The bass work was wonderful to listen to from, once again, Peg. I mean, this track has everything to me. But really, I have to say that it's McGregor that, personally, makes it what it is. Never sing for my supper, I never help my neighbor. Never do what is proper for my share or a fair share of labor. I'm a poor boy, I'm a rover, count your coins and throw them over my shoulder. I may grow older. Nobody knows how cold it grows, and nobody sees how shaky my knees. Nobody cares how steep my stairs, and nobody smiles if I cross their styles. All right, so I'll admit, I do not know what the word styles means, so I'm going to Google it real quick. Styles. Nothing came up except a bunch of like names. Maybe if I type in styles meaning. Style. An arrangement of steps that allows people, but not animals, to cross over. Okay, so let me bring you back. This is a style. Like this. Like it's not a fence, but like a fence-ish kind of thing. So that's what a style is. I just never knew it. I never heard of that word. So he's a traveling folk artist. He doesn't sing for his supper. He doesn't help his neighbor. He never does what's proper. He's a poor boy. He's roving. He's traveling, doing his thing. He's not too worried about the money. He's just here to sing. Oh, poor boy, so sorry for himself, so worried for his health. You may say every day, where will he stay tonight? He's a traveling troubadour. Never know what I came for. Seems that I've forgotten. Never ask what I came for or how I was begotten. I'm a poor boy. I'm a ranger. Things I say may seem stranger than Sunday, changing to Monday. Like what he says on one day could change from the next day. Then the lyrics pretty much repeat from there as well. So worried for his life, so keen to take a wife, so sorry for himself, so worried about his health. So maybe this. Maybe it seems that he doesn't care about certain things, but maybe he actually does. Actually, when he says, so keen to take a wife, sorry for himself, he's worried about his health. So he is actually concerned with himself, but maybe, other people look at him and say, like, it doesn't look like he's caring about himself so much or so. Maybe. Not quite sure. I like it, though. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track here, which is Northern Sky. Here we go.
Bright in my northern sky.
That's the waxing romantic right there.
Would you
Add
let
back
me
into it.
for my money?
Now that is a love song. That is a love song for the ages. This is Drake just purely waxing poetic about this certain someone, and he's putting it all down, ink to paper, written and put down for eternity for all of us to see. I think that this was incredible. The combination of the Celeste, because I did see that before. I think it's also played by KL, if I remember correctly what I saw. Yeah, so KL's performing the Celeste here, the piano, the organ. Man, does he bring a certain wonderful melodic color into the music here. I love how, of course, you hear the spine of the piano being played here, but then, you have the Celeste kind of off as an accompaniment to the side. Like, it's just like this little side dish that at certain moments you hear it kind of sparkling in the back. And it really feels like, when I think of the Northern Sky, this is just me, I think of the Northern Lights. And that's what those lights feel like to me, just colors dancing in the sky. And Drake is basically saying in certain words like, I've never felt this before, I've never seen this before, but now that you're here, I'm seeing things and feeling things that are unexplainable, but I don't want those feelings to go away. It's as wondrous as those Northern Lights. I think that is absolutely sensational in the way that, obviously the way Drake sings it, but the way that KO kind of brings that all to light and life with the instruments here that I mentioned he's playing. I do see, actually before I look at the Wikipedia article, let's look at the lyrics here as well, which I think are absolutely wonderful. I never felt crazy, or I never felt magic crazy as this. I never saw moons, knew the meaning of the sea. I never held emotion in the palm of my hand, or felt sweat or sweet breezes on the top of the tree. But now you're here, bright in my northern sky. I love all those lyrics, but I never saw moons, knew the meaning of the sea. Obviously the moons, tides of the sea and such, but like he never, in a sense, felt or understood that magic. But now he's feeling it with this certain someone. He's never held emotion in the palm of his hand. Of course, that could be symbolically or figuratively, but holding hands with someone that you love. He's never felt that before, but now you're here and his sky is brightened. I've been a long time that I'm waiting. I've been a long time that I've blown. I've been a long time that I've wandered through the people I have known. Oh, if you would and you could straighten my new mind's eye. Like, he's seen a lot of people, he's, met a lot of people, but he's never experienced this kind of feeling with any of them. And the way he says, I've been a long time that I'm blown, like, I think that he's kind of referencing like a ship in the sea. Like, he's blown this way, he's blown that way, but he's never felt harbored. He's never felt anchored down. And now he's feeling it and he's understanding it. Would you love me for my money? Would you love me for my head? Would you love me through the winter? Would you love me till I'm dead? Oh, if you would and you could, come blow your horn on high. Like all these things, like, would you love me for this? Would you love me for that? And he's constantly amazed basically at like their answer. Like, of course I love you for this. But what about this? Of course I love you for that. Like, he's just absolutely enamored. And then when he says like, come blow your horn on high, like, let's announce it to the world. This is not this is not something to hide or to like pull back from. No, let's blow the horn on high. Let's go to the highest hillside, blow that horn, let everybody know we're in this. And then once again he repeats the chorus there, which, looking at it like this, it is really cool. I'm losing it. The way that the lyrics and the stanzas, like the way they're composed, like it's chorus, verse 1, verse 2, and then chorus, instead of the typical, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. This is chorus, verse, chorus. And then it just reiterates, of course, he's never felt magic like this or whatever. Let's see, because there was a Wikipedia article for this. Let's take a look at that. It says, during the recording sessions for the album, the chronically shy and withdrawn songwriter formed a friendship and a mentorship of sorts with producer Joe Boyd. Boyd saw commercial potential in the acoustic and unaccompanied demo version of the song and recruited former Velvet Underground member John Cale as producer, who added, of course, those instruments, which were initially against Drake's wishes. The song marked a strong redirection in Drake's sound. He was pleased with Cale's production and anticipated that the song would be his commercially successful breakthrough. However, Island Records decided against releasing it as a single, and the accompanying album, like its predecessor, did not receive marketing support and failed to sell. Having tried lush arrangements, of course, Pink Moon is characterized by bleak vocals and sparse guitar parts, and of course received limited release. In the 80s, this song became pivotal in resurrecting interest in Drake's music that had largely been forgotten. It's described as the finest to which Nick Drake ever lent his name. Again, sounding alone and vulnerable, he pleads for the brightness to come. And there's a lot of information here about, the composition, where it came from and such. But yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful track there. So let's go ahead and go into the final track here of the album, which is going to be Sunday, which, if you're watching this video on the initial release date, is going to be tomorrow. Or maybe you're watching this on Sunday. Who knows? But what I do know is we're going to listen to it. So here we go. I felt like Sunday was this great kind of a sun. Oh my God. This I've been recording for too long. Not sunrise, sunset. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I couldn't get the word sunfall out of my head. Not sunfall, sunset. This track felt like a really nice sunset, a final ride, a final hurrah for the album, in which it has this kind of Western reflection to me. It has this kind of Western folk sound of Drake's guitar. The flute makes a very welcome return here. I love the melody that it plays. And I like how when the strings come in, the flute plays that da-da-da, then the strings ba-ba-ba. Like, there's that nice echo right after that I really enjoy. And it's just a very calming but moving kind of track that gives it, like I said, that one last hurrah. There is that, in the midst of it, the meat of this particular sandwich is adventurous. It does feel like movement, like a journey. But of course, in the beginning and the ending, we have, like I said, that sunfall moment, that sunset moment of it's all kind of winding down, we're coming back down, and then the journey is over. The record is over. I think that this was a great way to end this particular album here. I just kicked my light. And on here, the flute is it Dobson again? No, it's not Dobson. No, it's Worley. I'm sorry, Worley is the flautist here. So that is the album. Sometimes I always cross the finish line. Sometimes I just stumble across the finish line instead of clearly, running across. But either way, really enjoyed listening to this album. I hope that you guys did as well. My favorite tracks on the album, if you're asking, I would say it's a tie between Chime of a City Clock and then Poor Boy. I think I lean a little bit more to Chime, but slightly. But that jazzy piano in Poor Boy is just brilliant to me. So I'm in between those two tracks. Those two tracks I would say are my favorites here on the album. But what are your favorite tracks? Once again, you've been here for an hour and 20 minutes. You've been here for an hour and 20 minutes. You've spent some time with me. You may have even broken up watching this recording. Either way, I really do appreciate you guys watching. Your support really helps a lot. Obviously, now I've been doing this for what I would consider a long time. I mean, it's been probably, what, 5 years that I've been doing this, maybe even a little bit more. I think it's actually even a little bit more. But either way, I really appreciate you guys, sticking around and exploring the music with me. Thank you. That's the most I can say. If you haven't already, the like button, the subscribe button. Once again, if you do wish to, you can support what I do on Patreon, $2 a month. You don't have to, but it goes a long way in what I can do over here. And that's the video. That's all I got to say. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you learned a new word. What is that word? I don't even know what that said. A long and angry complaint? Jeremiad? It needs to say how to pronounce it. Anyways, have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. I will talk to you all later. Bye, guys. Jeremiad? Jeremiad? Oh my. Jeremiad. Also, my coffee's gone. Perfect timing.